The Batman Arkham series is in a very weird place right now with where it is going. Unlike what some people say of, well, Jay, it's done, it's finished, it's dead, let it go. There is no series to look at. It's not really. There are a lot of massive gaping holes in the timeline and in the story. And look, normally I'm a fan of massive gaping holes, okay? I mean, I don't know. But I will say that when it comes to Arkham, there's a little bit left to be desired when it comes to some of the story details. And there is a lot of potential to continue in this universe. People have asked for Superman. People have asked to see the Justice League. Well, Jay, we're going to see the Justice League in Suicide Squad kill the Justice League. Yes, but people have asked to see the Justice League from the point of view of the Justice League, not from the point of view of the Suicide Squad. So there's a lot of different things going on with the Arkham trilogy, and I guess I should say the Arkham universe in general. The Arkham trilogy itself of just Asylum, City, and Night is coming soon to the Nintendo Switch, but it's a bit of a mixed bag because only Arkham Asylum is going to be on the cartridge, the rest is going to be download. So at that point, unless you're just wanting to play Arkham Asylum on the go, you almost might as well just buy that digitally if you even want it. There's the question of how well that will run and look on the Switch. I would assume better than on the 360 and PS3, but we also assumed that with the Return to Arkham collection, which is another mixed bag for the PS4 and Xbox One, where it was a remaster, it was supposed to be better, and some textures, some characters are better, some are glaringly worse than the original releases, especially when you look at PC. And how the textures and games have held up on their original versions. Then we have Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League coming out in 2024, reportedly being a lot more live service focused and oriented, and lining up with Warner Bros. Constant push now to try and earn back the money under Discovery that they have been losing on a lot of their movie kerfuffles and flops. You also do have the change of direction with the company in general for Warner Bros., with essentially a push to try and tie things into the movies. They said not all things, but a lot. So you've kind of left the Arkham series, this universe, in a weird place. And then, of course, there is also the passing of Kevin Conroy, which I want to say is a lot more important, I think, than anything we're talking about here. I did make a whole video on him and his impact on my life and others. I think he was an amazing man. But again, even if you separate that from this issue, which is impossible to do with a man like that, but if you do, you're left with almost a Black Panther situation of this man was the heart and soul of this version of the character. Kind of like how Chadwick Boseman was T'Challa to pretty much everyone who watched the MCU version of Black Panther. So then you get to the Arkham version of Batman, or the DCAU version of Batman even, aside from this one, and that voice, that iconic person so tied to the role passes. And you're left with a question of what happens now? What goes on now? I really think it's frustrating, and I will say too, before I get further into it, if you do enjoy today's video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I have to say that. I know some of you hate when YouTubers say that, but my videos have not been being shown lately at all. So you've probably missed a lot of uploads, depending on who you are, of a variety of topics. So if you want to check back on the channel, I appreciate that. People think I got shadow banned. I don't really think it's that. I just think the YouTube algorithm hates variety channels. So if you want to check that out, help support this channel in different ways, there's stuff in the description, and I appreciate you very much just telling me what you think. But when it comes down to it, the Arkham series itself is in a very precarious and weird spot. You're now asking questions. You're asking questions like, should I buy the Batman Arkham trilogy on Nintendo Switch? Well, on one hand, someone like me, who I like the options of both digital and physical games. I've talked about that 100,000 times. It always starts a big argument. People get mad at me. I don't understand why. I'm not advocating against digital's existence, which is something I see a lot of the digital bros do. They advocate against physical existing, which is weird to me. I advocate for consumer options. Give us the option. Give me the option to buy the Arkham trilogy fully on digital. All of its DLC, everything, just on digital. Okay, cool, that's an option. Now give me the option to buy the Arkham trilogy physically, even if you sold it separately as Asylum, City, Night, physically, so that I can have physical, on-cart versions of those games that I can take on the go with me if I want to. No Wi-Fi, no problem. I don't need to download or install anything from the internet. I don't need to download anything from the internet except maybe a patch that doesn't actually matter that much. I just need to put the cart in, right? That's kind of what I want, is those options. Well, that option is gone. You only have that option for Asylum. So now City and Night don't matter. You have to get those from the internet. So then people like me, who advocate for those consumer options and really enjoy physical games, enjoy collecting, enjoy preserving the media, those people are now put in a weird spot with Arkham. Do I buy the Nintendo Switch Arkham trilogy? Well, look, again, they ignored things like Blackgate. They ignored things like, the original Arkham Origins. Those things just got the shaft. So do I buy this and say, hey guys, at WB, I don't care that you did this decision with, putting part of the game on the internet and part of it on the cartridge and charging me the same price. I don't care about that. What I care about is just supporting the series, because that's how they're going to look at it. They're not going to look at the specifics. And this is what pisses me off about companies now. It's why I wanted to make this video. Companies now, at least a lot of them in media, you can see this when there's massive, data breaches or leaks or any of this stuff and internal memos come out. They are not very often actually looking at what they should be looking at. Something that every business is supposed to do is look at specifics of why things do and don't work. But now the media industries, what do they actually look at? They look at lack of interest. They blame everything on the fans. They blame everything on a lack of interest. You have a Star Wars movie that maybe people don't connect with or doesn't do well, or maybe you have a TV show or a Disney Plus series that flops. People don't like the writing, or maybe people just didn't like the acting in it. You'll have things like that. Or you'll have a video game where the video game runs poorly. The video game is not optimized well. It's really, really laggy. And these companies will look at these things and they will say, oh, well, no one bought this video game about Superman, making one up. The game came out, it was broken, it didn't run right, it was super laggy, it was very clearly rushed. People don't like Superman. That's what they get out of these things. They will look at them and they will say, oh, well, clearly there's not an interest in Batman games at the moment. Gotham Knights did poorly, it didn't do as well as we wanted it to. It's not because of all the weird narrative decisions or the fact that the game didn't run that well or the fact that it didn't really look as good as Arkham Knight from 2015. No. People just don't care about the Bat family in video games. They'll look at this and they'll say, oh, people didn't buy the Batman Arkham trilogy? Well, I guess they just are kind of done with the Arkham universe, especially if Suicide Squad flops or if it doesn't do the numbers that they want it to. Now, personally, I think Suicide Squad will probably be fine because for some reason, whales will support games as a service and spend thousands of dollars on these live service games. So I'm sure there will be, a select minority at the very least who floats a game like that. But people like me who enjoyed the single-player, story-driven stuff around these games and the open-world exploration and cosmetics and all that stuff in-game, a game like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is kind of iffy for me. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. It's just not really what I wanted out of the Arkham universe off the top of my head. I could think of a dozen other stories, time periods, characters that I would have wanted covered first. So for me, then you're kind of sitting here like, well, do I get this because they're going to say, well, no one likes this universe anymore, no one likes these games anymore because they didn't buy it? Do I get it because it's one of Kevin Conroy's last performances and that man was amazing? Do I not get it because I don't want to support games as a service, but then I'm not able to enjoy one of Kevin Conroy's final performances? You see what I mean? These things are a mixed bag from the consumer standpoint, but they're not when it comes to these companies. Even things like Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker leaving Rocksteady Studios, supposedly under good terms and amicably, but that's what every single departure pretty much says. It's almost always, well, it was amicable, it was a good thing for both of us. It's like when parents divorce and they're like, oh, well, we're both moving on to a new chapter of our lives and we're doing this and that. It's like they never talk about how, like, your dad was, I found your dad with my sister. They don't talk about the dirty laundry. They just say, oh, well, we're going to kind of go our own way and it's going to be good and positive and everyone's going to be happy. And that's the thing that always happens with splits like this, too. So then you're left scratching your head like, well, why did, Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker really leave? And I don't want to put words in their mouth, but it is something that no matter what they say, they could come out and give the most detailed explanation. There will be a lot of people kind of thinking, uh-oh, the co-founders of Rocksteady Studio left the studio. Is this going to be the same vibes? What are they going for? Oh, they're making a games as a service. Is that why they left? And then you're going to have tons of speculation. And then again, if you don't buy it, doesn't mean you just don't care about the universe. It's not supposed to be so black and white, but all of these different things together have left this, I would say, I don't know, continuity in such a weird place. And I know some people are like, just let it die. Leave it alone. I don't care about it anymore. But for me, when I look at these games, it's the same way as when I look at the DCAU. You can say, well, let it die. Let's just move on. But the things since moving on have not been as interesting or good as that old thing. Now, do I think those old things should be milked to death? No. But I do think that you have such a solid bone structure, I would say, such a good skeleton, that there's a lot you can do with that. You know, I don't want to get too far off topic, but here is a good example of that. The DCAU has been mostly abandoned. It gets maybe a new movie every 5 to 10 years. It's done that a couple times. We don't know if it's a common occurrence that'll happen again or not. But other than some remasters on Blu-ray and 4K, they just kind of stopped doing stuff with that universe for a very long time. You know, they kind of ditched Batman. They never went in on the storylines about, well, what, you know, where was Batman in between the end of Justice League Unlimited and where he starts having heart problems at the beginning of Beyond? You know, where was he in that? What was going on? You know, what about Superman? How does he transition to an older character? Well, where's Static? You know, we want more Static. They don't really get into those things or even potential shows and spin-offs. What they do is they just ditch it and move on to something else. But then the thing they moved on to was not as creative, the DC animated movie universe. It has a lot of good things in it, but a lot of flops too. A lot of things that kind of fell on their face and weren't as good. Then they move into the Man of Tomorrow universe, and it's a mixed bag, and a lot of people just don't care anymore. And that's the movies for DC animated. So people say, well, why don't you just ditch DC animated universe? Why don't you just let it go, Jay? It's because you were a kid during the time. That's the only reason you care about it. Just let it go. Well, now, the things they've moved on to since then, people don't care about as much. They don't sell really that well. You always see extra physical copies of those things in stores, like the new Justice League Warworld movie. Nobody really even knew it came out for the most part when it actually launched. There was almost no promotion around it. It just kind of dropped. Green Lantern, that movie, not the Ryan Reynolds one, but the Beware My Power, I believe it was called, it was just not very good. And so now you have an issue of declining quality and of, well, should we have really ever left that thing behind because we ditched a really solid, good bone structure we could have fleshed out even more and gotten into even more with good writers, and we tried to make multiple new ones, and they kind of flopped a little bit. They didn't do as well. They were more of a mixed bag. Arkham's the same way. Oh, well, just let it go. Let them move on. They'll do something new. They come out with Gotham Knights. Most people didn't really care for it that much. You can see that in the fact that its sales numbers were not very good, in the fact that it hasn't really made much of a resurgence at all, and it didn't have nearly the impact that any of the Arkham games had. And then you have the passing of Kevin Conroy, like I said, who was the voice of Batman in a lot of continuities, the DCAU, the Arkham universe, and then you're left with questions of, well, what about Roger Craig Smith? He did such an amazing job with Batman, but we can't replace Kevin Conroy. It's not about replacing it. It's about the fact that Kevin Conroy loved this character, and he loved impactful stories that Batman, you know, was able to give and reach out to people. And then there's arguments of, what would he have wanted? And then there's arguments of, does it matter what he would have wanted because, you know, he didn't own the character, and then people get in all these fights and stuff. And like, it's left all of these things in such a weird position of limbo, where it's like, is there a point to continue? Is there not? Would it even be good? Would it just be milking it? And I don't really know. I don't really know what to do. That's kind of why I wanted to make this video, because I want to know your opinion, you know, as a fellow fan, because at the end of the day, that's what I am. You know, I'm not a video game developer, although I have actually thought about doing some indie stuff on my own just for fun. My chronic pain makes it really hard for me to do that kind of stuff and keep up with my work. Something I've thought about, though. But at the end of the day, I'm a fan, you know, and someone who really enjoys this stuff. I have some college degrees, but, you know, that's about it. So I want to know your thoughts on this. What do you think is going to happen with this series? What are your thoughts on what you're going to do? Are you going to buy these things to support the universe? Are you not? Would you ever want to see this universe continue with someone like Roger Craig Smith voicing Batman? Would you feel like that's just replacing Kevin? I personally don't, but some people really do. What do you think about this stuff? Because it's in such a weird spot for me right now. This is near the end of 2023, so it's going to be dated, obviously. And maybe it won't even matter. With the very, very money-seeking direction that WB is going, where they, any product they release now that doesn't make $1 billion, they ditch immediately. We can see that with the movies. In that direction that they're at, does it even matter? Or will they just say, it's not worth touching this, it's got a lot of baggage, the Suicide Squad was greenlit by the old leadership, we're just going to let that come out, and then we're going to move on. I don't know. That's kind of why I want to talk to you about it and get your opinions on it. So this isn't really a video with a big strong message of guys, you have to go buy the Switch version of Batman Arkham to support Batman Arkham so we get more. It's not a big, message of guys, please don't buy Suicide Squad. It's sending the wrong message. It's a games as a service. I'm just saying that these are all thought processes that people are having, myself included, where you're kind of sitting here wondering, what's going to happen? What do I do with this? Is it pretty much dead? Is it not? Is there a chance for more? Is there not? I don't know. That's kind of why I wanted to get your opinions on it. I just kind of wanted to lay out the position that this series is in and this universe is in right now and kind of get your feelings on it and your opinions. So if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I have been uploading a lot of videos recently. A lot of them have not been seen. I've actually been paying money out of my own pocket to promote my channel to try and get people to see it. So that's been kind of hurting me. But I do want to grow this channel. I don't have plans to go anywhere. I really do love doing this. I love talking to you guys and connecting with you and hearing your thoughts. That means a lot to me. And, you guys have impacted my life in a lot of very positive and amazing ways. But to be completely honest with you at the end of the video here, I'm really struggling. I'm working very, very hard, probably more hours than I've ever worked in my life. And YouTube is kind of really shafting this channel right now. Just nobody is seeing it. So if you want to share with your friends, go check out some of the uploads maybe you've missed on the channel. I typically upload every other day in the late afternoon to early evening, but I also have a sleep issue, so sometimes it depends. But I appreciate your support, and there are ways to help support the channel in the description down below, such as we do have our own store where my wife makes a lot of awesome comic book resin art, which is from repurposed comic books that are getting thrown out, tossed into landfills and stuff. Also, we do have a Patreon, we have channel memberships, lots of ways to help support this channel that mean the world to me. And just leaving a like and commenting does a lot more than you know too. So have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay shui.